It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Labour launches its Change Manifesto aimed at creating wealth, but there's no new policy and tax rises aren't off the table.
It doesn't seem feasible what they want to do with the amount of cash that they say they've got.
It just feels like I've heard it all before.
A moment of great danger as a poll suggests reform has overtaken the Conservatives for the first time in the campaign. A 5-year fight for justice. The family of Harry Dunn welcomed the coroner's verdict and criticised the woman responsible for his death. The uncertain political future hanging over the world's most powerful leaders as they meet to discuss support for Ukraine. The Tartan Army take to the party in Munich ahead of the opening match of Euro 2024. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. The Labour leader has unveiled his election manifesto, designed, his party says, to deliver genuine change. But Sir Keir Starmer's claim that he would fund public services properly without raising taxes or making spending cuts has been challenged tonight by the fiscal watchdog. He pledged there would be no return to austerity and denied producing a Captain Caution manifesto designed to protect his lead in the polls. Well, this, he said, is a fully costed, serious plan for the future. The manifesto states there would be no VAT or income tax increases in Labour's first term. But importantly, other tax rises, like in capital gains, haven't been ruled out. 2 million more appointments per year will be created to cut NHS waiting times. The Rwanda policy will be scrapped and the savings used to create a new border security command. A new publicly owned energy company called Great British Energy will be formed to reduce the cost of electricity. And there's a pledge to build 1.5 million new homes and reform the planning system. Sky's political editor, Beth Rigby, has tonight's first report.
For this Labour leader, things are looking up. Their message to the point, their manifesto over 100 pages long, but short on any new promises, no risks being taken here. There was something of a false start.
My generation is being let down by the Labour Party and this manifesto. You say that you're offering...
But this, a leader who won't be thrown off course.
We gave up on being a party of protest 5 years ago. We want to be a party of power.
Halfway through this election campaign, but here in Manchester, it feels closer to the win than that. And Keir Starmer beginning to lean in.
A manifesto for wealth creation, a plan to change Britain. Because there is so much potential in this country, so much possibility if we stand together as 4 nations and back the ambition people have for their family and their community.
But nothing new today. Everything in this manifesto's already been announced. Starmer clearly doesn't think he needs a hard sell to voters. This is a 132-page document. On the cover it says change, but there's not a single new policy in it you haven't already announced. Is this a Captain Caution manifesto designed to protect your poll lead?
No. It is a serious plan for the future of our country. And every single policy in this document, policy after policy after policy, has been carefully thought through and tested to ensure that we can deliver it. This is a serious plan, carefully thought through. It's not about rabbits out the hat. It's not about pantomime. We've had that. I'm running as a candidate to be Prime Minister, not a candidate to run the circus.
But if the Labour leader and his team get this over the line, they will have to run a country, and that will take more than a one-word slogan. When you're talking about change, don't you really mean patience for the British people, that they're going to have to wait because you're not doing anything radical enough to really change this country?
Well, I think it's really radical to bring in the non-dom tax loophole to get the 40,000 appointments we need in our NHS to fix the dentistry.
If you don't get growth in the first 2-3 years, you're going to either have to cut or raise taxes. That's the truth.
But we're going to get growth.
And what if you don't get growth?
Well, I reject that hypothesis. We have a credible, a serious plan for growth in this manifesto. That is what this manifesto is all about, and that's what we're going to deliver.
Today at the G7, Rishi Sunak, away from the campaign trail, seemingly offered some sympathy by his Italian counterpart. But clear, this election comes down to just one issue.
You've seen two manifestos this week, and there's a clear choice at this election. We published a manifesto that's going to cut taxes for people in this country, and the Labour manifesto that was published today made it clear that taxes are going to rise.
But Starmer adamant this isn't the case. Can I just have a moment of honesty about this? Because if you don't raise taxes, you don't have enough money, do you, to rebuild public services?
I reject that argument. I reject this suggestion that is out there that all we can hope for our economy is that we flatline forever.
You think you're going to win, don't you?
Well, I've always said we've got to earn every vote. I've said polls don't predict the future. But as you would expect, I know the public would expect anybody who wants to be Prime Minister to be ready to hit the ground running.
There's no sign of Starmer slowing down, travelling to a football club in Cheshire to tackle yet another Tory target seat. Well ahead and determined to keep it that way.
Thank you so much.
Beth Rigby, Sky News, Manchester.
Well, viewers thought Keir Starmer was the clear winner in last night's Sky News battle for number 10 event. So what do voters make of his plans to govern? The constituency of Mansfield is a key Labour target. Our deputy political editor, Sam Coates, has been finding out if people there were convinced by the manifesto.
There you go. Thank you. Will you be all right?
Voters at this election want delivery after a parliament of broken promises. At this lunch club in Mansfield near Nottingham, the diners want to believe Keir Starmer would serve up something different.
I know I'm going to vote right. Not this lot. I'm going to give Keir a chance.
Do you know anything at all about what he stands for, what he do?
Not really. No, not really. It can't be any worse than this lot.
Have you been following Keir Starmer? What do you make of what he might do?
People that ask you to vote for them, they're telling fibs, which is, I believe, correct.
You think Keir Starmer's telling fibs, even though you're going to vote for him?
Well, all of them.
But it doesn't seem feasible what they want to do with the amount of cash that they say they've got or will get. I can't see that they're going to do it that way.
This is a really Tory area.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance Labour might win it?
I do. Yes, I do think they might.
3 for £10, yeah.
Will the people of Mansfield trade up their MP? This seat at the upper end of Labour's ambitions, a 16,000 Tory majority. It would fall in a landslide. Are voters buying the wares on display?
You watched the Sky programme last night. Who do you think won?
I think it's Starmer, I think. Come over, maybe just edge the bets a bit.
Michael will vote Labour next month, but he's far from wowed by today's offering.
What do you make of the types of things that Keir Starmer is choosing to talk about?
It just feels like I've heard it all before, to be quite honest. I'm pretty open-minded. I listen to all the debates, but no, I'm not sure what he's going to come out with at the end of the day.
Does it feel specific?
It doesn't feel, no. There's no.
Labour has agonised over its manifesto, but people around here worry that the promises either won't come true or they'll end up paying for them in higher taxes. But at the moment, that's better than the alternative.
Sharon runs a local charity and knows better than most why there's an appetite for change in this town.
It's broken, the system's broken.
What do you think the people around here really want to change?
I think they just want to play their part and be valued for their part, and actually to feel like they can take part in life generally, but there's so much of what they experience is about having to battle for everyday rights.
1 and 9, 19.
Voters concentrating hard, so nothing left to chance in the Labour manifesto.
65.
But even if no one takes a risk, someone has to win.
Thank you.
Keir Starmer hopes his number comes up on election
3
day.
and 4, 34.
Sam Coates, Sky News, Mansfield.
3 and 8, 38.
And on your screen now is a list of all the candidates standing in the Mansfield constituency. Now, we did think it was coming, and tonight polls suggest that Nigel Farage's Reform Party has overtaken the Conservatives for the very first time. Here's how he responded.
I'm Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK. Just before we came on air, we overtook the Conservatives in the national opinion polls. We are now the opposition to Labour.
Nigel is a Labour enabler.
Okay. Nigel,
and he is enabling no cap, no target and no plan.
Penny, let Nigel Farage come back.
I don't believe a single word that you say. You've deceived us with the last 4 manifestos. I don't believe you in the 5th. And as for being a Labour enabler, we are now ahead of you in the national polls.
OK, thank you.
A vote for you is actually now a vote for Labour.
Thank you very much, all of you, for the questions so far. That's it for this point. That's it for
Nigel is a
Thank you very much.
Let's take you live to Sam Coates now, Deputy Political Editor, who's in Westminster. So, Sam, a significant moment in the campaign after a big day for Labour.
That's right. Today, in fact, like so many days this week, has reinforced the sense that we are heading towards quite substantial change in our politics within a matter of weeks. Take that poll, Reform overtaking the Conservatives by just 1 point, as you say. A big psychological blow for the party, but something else. This is a poll that is taken after the Tory manifesto launch and does not show any kind of positive reaction from the public visible in that poll. Another blow for Rishi Sunak. We'll have to wait a few days for the next one to find out what the public made of the Sky event on Wednesday night. Then there is the Labour manifesto launch. Yes, it's a campaigning document designed to arm activists on the doorstep to sell Labour and rebut opposition claims. And yes, as economics editor Ed Conway says, the amount of spending in it is relatively limited. But flicking through it myself, I did think that viewers, voters at home, would be entitled to think that that document did promise things in their life would change substantially, prioritising growth, energy superpower, reclaiming our streets. Now, the path of how you get there and exactly what the destination is might be a little fuzzy, but nevertheless, it's a promise to do things differently. All of this suggests that we are on the course for something different. It's been the most consequential week of the campaign so far. Just 3 weeks to go. Are we on the cusp of something big?
We don't have the answer, but we will find out. For the moment, Sam, thank you so much. Well, as Sam was saying, a cautious manifesto by a party keen to avoid a misstep. But how would Labour fund its pledges? Our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, has been finding out.
It is perhaps the biggest manifesto story, given where the polls are. Everyone wants to know what is in Labour's plans. Well, now we have the document and we have some of the numbers. I can show you them. But actually, these numbers weren't quite as big as a lot of people might have been expecting because there were no new announcements. So we have the same commitments on spending that we've heard about quite a bit already and more or less the same plans on taxation. So quite a lot of money coming in through avoidance measures, on non-doms as well. You've got VAT on private schools. Add all of this stuff up and you get 2 big bars. That one is taxes, that one's spending. And you can probably notice something striking, can't you? £7.4 billion in taxes, £4.8 billion in spending. This bar is bigger than the other one. And Labour really want us to focus on that because they say this buffer here, that's about prudence. It's about good sense and leaving some room for something that, might happen in future. However, it's worth just noting that's not the full story. You've also, if you're talking about the total picture of the public finances, you've got to factor in this green prosperity plan. Now, it's not the £28 billion that Ed Miliband previously talked about, but still, it's quite a lot of extra investment that goes on that side, the spending. And then you've got these windfall taxes, extra windfall taxes on the North Sea there. And you can probably notice the difference here, can't you? Suddenly, spending is bigger than the money coming in. And that means this implies about an extra £1 billion worth of borrowing. But Labour say, listen, it's OK because it's for investment and it fits within our fiscal rules. We will have to see whether that is the case. But I want to just kind of take these boxes, OK? You've got investment, you've got other spending, you've got taxes, and just give you a bit of context here, OK? So there they are. That's Labour right now. I want to compare these Labour plans, that's the manifesto in numerical terms, with what we saw from other parties, OK? So there's Labour, but just look at the difference between these bars and the Conservatives and the Lib Dems. Look how much smaller this is, and that's just part of a testament to the fact that you don't have big pledges in here. And it's even more striking when you compare Labour, not just with the Conservatives and the Lib Dems this time around, but with Labour last time around. So let's do that. I have to shrink this down a bit so we have a bigger axis. That's this time. Look at Labour now compared with Jeremy Corbyn's Labour in 2019 and in 2017. Look how much smaller. It's completely changed political party right now, at least on this numerical basis, compared with what came before. Really striking when you look at those figures. But also striking is this chart. We've talked about it quite a lot in the last few weeks, haven't we? This is the tax burden for the UK, including everything, so all of the taxes we pay. You can see it was high, and as a percentage of GDP, the higher this line is, the more we're taxed. It was high in the post-war period. It's come up recently because of COVID, energy price shock, all of that stuff. It was due to go even higher. The Conservative manifesto pledges a cut in taxation, but crucially, it doesn't mean this is actually going to be lower. It just means it's rising a bit less quickly than was otherwise the case. We know the Lib Dems are going to raise taxes considerably more, so where does Labour sit? Well, let's bring on the red line. You can see it's a little bit above the current path, certainly above the Conservatives and below the Lib Dems. So again, it's not a radical shift, but it does mean if we draw a line there, going all the way back, this would be the highest tax burden on record, even higher than this point in the post-war period. So pretty interesting, but broadly speaking, perhaps the most conservative, with a small c, manifesto we've seen yet.
The coroner in the inquest into the death of motorcyclist Harry Dunn has recommended driver training for Americans at the RAF base near where the 19-year-old was killed. Harry was hit by Anne Sakoulas, who was driving on the wrong side of the road and left the country soon after the crash, claiming diplomatic immunity. His family welcomed the ruling, but said they would never have closure. Sky's Lisa Dowd has followed the case since Harry died nearly 5 years ago and has this report.
For nearly 5 years, Harry Dunn's family have had to fight to find out what happened. But the driver who hit him, Anne Sakoulas, an American spy, refused again to face them at his inquest.
She could have appeared on video link from the comfort of her own home. But again, she chose to hide, and she chose to just leave us with no other option at all than to just feel that she just doesn't care.
In 2019, motorcyclist Harry was hit head-on by Mrs. Sakoulas outside the American intelligence base, RAF Croton, in Northamptonshire. She left the UK after the US claimed diplomatic immunity.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
In 2022, she was handed a suspended sentence by a British judge after admitting causing Harry's death by careless driving. But she gave evidence remotely from America. We now know that Anne Sakoulas said sorry to Harry immediately after the crash. And as he lay dying, she promised to get him help. But that help has never extended to his family. It has compounded their grief.
Does it bring closure to our loss? I don't think that ever happens. The loss of a child you still live with 24/7. It doesn't get any easier.
The coroner has recommended better driver training for Americans at the base.
The coroner and her words, I, for the first time, have felt that we've actually achieved something as a team. I'm sorry for being emotional. But I feel the words spoken today have proven that there was something wrong and it needs fixing.
Harry's family say all they ever wanted was accountability, but that the actions of Mrs Sakoulas and the American authorities have made that impossible. They'd like a public inquiry here into how their son's tragic crash became such an ordeal. Lisa Dowd, Sky News, Northamptonshire.
Rishi Sunak has said it's very disappointing that one of his closest parliamentary aides placed a bet on a July election just days before he called it. Craig Williams, who served as Mr Sunak's parliamentary private secretary, has apologised but refused to say whether he placed the £100 bet on the basis of insider information. The MP says he will fully cooperate with the Gambling Commission investigation. Well, the Prime Minister was speaking from Italy, where the world's most powerful men and women met today to discuss long-term funding for Ukraine. But for most of them, from Emmanuel Macron to Joe Biden, they've been distracted by domestic issues, as our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, reports from Puglia.
They filed in like walking wounded, seeking sanctuary from battles back home. A parade of lame ducks, dead men walking. In tomorrow's papers, the metaphors will write themselves. The only leader not sinking in the polls, their host, the only one whose smile seemed genuine. For once, Italy's government is the most stable in the alliance. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni hoping to build on that, to forge success here and give Ukraine's President Zelensky more help. But it is direct bilateral American support for Ukraine, a security pact between the two countries, that will be the biggest headline from this summit.
Our goal is to strengthen Ukraine's credible defense and deterrence capabilities for the long term. A lasting peace for Ukraine must be underwritten by Ukraine's own ability to defend itself now and to deter future aggression anytime in the future.
We have signed the strongest agreement between Ukraine and the US since our independence.
Allies have also agreed on using frozen Russian assets to lend $50 billion to Ukraine.
Now, this is something that I and the UK have personally championed and led on for a while now, so it's very positive to see it close to the finish line. It will make an enormous difference, and it demonstrates the G7 is absolutely united in doing everything it can to support Ukraine to defend itself against Russian aggression.
Hanging over this summit, though, doubts about the future of the alliance and its members. More unfortunate pictures, perhaps, each leader's national flag falling from a great height, like some of their political fortunes. But whatever the optics, this was one military display Rishi Sunak was not going to miss. They're all distracted by challenges back home, or potentially on borrowed time, but determined to use what they have left of it to help Ukraine. Will that be enough, though, before the winds of change sweep at least some of them away? Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Bari, Italy.
While Joe Biden met Ukraine's President Zelensky, Donald Trump today returned to Capitol Hill for the first time since the January the 6th riots. The former president met House and Senate Republicans as he prepares his bid for the White House. His visit coincided with a decision by the Supreme Court to preserve access to the drug most commonly used for abortions. Our US correspondent James Matthews is live in Washington for us now. And James, Donald Trump back in control of the Republican Party tonight, it seems.
Hi, Gillian. Yeah, that was certainly the plan, coming here to meet and greet members of both chambers, Republican Party members, but also to assert his authority over the party. He wasn't in the Capitol building itself, but he was on Capitol Hill, the territory where US democracy came under threat in 2021. And many, of course, inside his party as well as outside, point the finger at Donald Trump as the orchestrator-in-chief of that. He did talk policy. He spoke about tariffs on Chinese goods, criticised US aid to Ukraine. At one point, he was given a cake. It's his birthday tomorrow. He was given a cake by members of the Republican Party. What did they think of him? Bearing in mind that many had criticised him, put distance between themselves and Trump in the past, I asked a few on their way out of the meeting, how did it go when the boss was in town? How can there be unity when he's been blamed by senior Republicans for being responsible for January the 6th?
Well, look, I think that no real Republican with any credibility in the party is still blaming him for January the 6th. Even, frankly, some of his critics, we're in the room and we're supportive and are supportive.
As a convicted felon, does that help you in terms of the election in November?
Trump was wrongly convicted, and y'all could go back to UK with your crap. We love America here. We love President Trump. We are standing for him. His poll numbers only continue to increase with everything that they throw at him. So y'all have a great day.
And Gillian, that wasn't the only election undercurrent to surface in Washington, D.C. today. Across town, the Supreme Court made a significant ruling on reproductive rights, the biggest ruling in that subject area since Roe versus Wade was overturned 2 years ago. In the United States, thousands of women in states where there are abortion bans and restrictions, they rely on drugs, abortion pills being sent from states to them, sent by people who have protections, who are able to prescribe those pills without breaking the law. Doctors, anti-abortionists have gone to the Supreme Court wanting restrictions on that practice. In the event, the Supreme Court justices unanimously rejected that, saying they didn't have any standing to sue. A big blow to anti-abortionists in the United States.
James, thank you. Let's return to the election campaign here in the UK now. And it wasn't just the Labour Party that launched its manifesto today. In Cardiff, Plaid Cymru called for fair funding for Wales as the party laid out its plans. Plaid's other key pledges include an increase in windfall tax on oil and gas companies and rejoining the single market. But there was barely a mention of Welsh independence. Sky's Wales correspondent Dan Whitehead reports.
Pulling up in the Welsh capital, Plaid's promise to Wales, more fairness and ambition. That translates to a demand for more money from Westminster.
Plaid Cymru is the only party advocating for the abolition of the Barnett's formula, which has seen Wales lose out to the tune of billions of pounds now over the years. It's not a begging bowl, it's just doing what's right, enabling investment in public services and in the economy.
Top of the list, £4 billion Plaid says is owed to Wales from HS2.
This whole manifesto is centred on what Plaid believes is an unfairness in how Wales is funded by Westminster. As well as the money from HS2, they want extra cash for the NHS and also an increase in child benefit, which they say will lift 60,000 children in Wales out of poverty.
Rena Purworth insists Plaid does offer an alternative voice to Labour that has long been dominant in Wales.
What's your opinions of Plaid Cymru?
Well, like a lot of the parties, they've all got some good ideas, and but I'm voting Labour to, get the Tories out.
I personally don't usually vote for Plaid, but I think it's, important to have that choice.
I think we need an alternative in Wales to Labour. I think we need an alternative to that, and we definitely need an alternative in Westminster.
At today's launch, there was no mention of independence. You have to go to page 42 in the manifesto to find it.
There have been some critical that you've not been as vocal as your predecessors on independence in Wales. Are you planning to lay out a timetable for a referendum, for instance?
I believe with every sinew in my body that Wales won't be able to reach its potential until we have all the levers of change in our hands. But we also work right now within a UK context. And it's my job through this manifesto to take the battle to whoever is in Downing Street now.
Boundary changes mean the number of Welsh MPs is going down at this election from 40 to 32. That's hit Plaid hard. 2 of their 4 seats won last time have gone. They have a battle on their hands to ensure the Welsh voice is heard. Dan Whitehead, Sky News in Cardiff.
The Tartan Army has arrived in Munich ahead of Scotland's match against Germany tomorrow, which kicks off the Euros. Up to 200,000 Scottish supporters are expected in the city, with one loyal fan walking all the way. Our sports correspondent Rob Harris is in Munich for us tonight. And Rob, what's the atmosphere like? Is it all building up to the big event tomorrow?
Well, here in Munich's Marienplatz, there's been a tartan takeover, anticipation and excitement building amongst the thousands of Scotland fans here in the main square. Many in kilts, a lot of drink being downed but all very good-natured. You could barely see a Germany flag or shirt in sight. Instead, the Scotland fans are still partying into the night, drinking in the street behind me. They're certainly making their presence felt ahead of the curtain raiser to the Euros. Bagpipes in Bavaria. The sound signalling the Tartan army are back. Their first chance to follow Scotland's men at an overseas tournament in 26 years. A long journey. 1,000 miles from Glasgow to Munich. Craig Ferguson raising more than £50,000 for charity on the way.
I mean, I hope that the #1 mission for this challenge was to raise as much funds and awareness for men's mental health as possible.
Yeah. You made it this far. Are Scotland going to go all the way?
Oh, of course, we're winning the full thing. But if we win, I did promise I would walk back. So maybe there's a part of me that doesn't actually hope that we win.
But first up, a meeting with Germany to open Euro 2024 on Friday night. This group without superstars taking on World Cup winners.
Then we believe we can create a bit of history, but we know we have to be at our best to do that. You know, there's no real pressure on us, there's no real expectation probably from the outside world, but you know, we expect a lot from ourselves. And the Tartan Army have been amazing with us from day one, and you know, we made a big point, me and the manager, when he first came in, to try and get them back on side, because the home support had maybe nosedived a little bit because of performances on the pitch.
This is Scotland's moment before England take the stage elsewhere in Germany at the weekend. Who's your favourite player?
John McGinn. We've got McGinn. Super John McGinn. I just don't think you understand.
What gives you the confidence?
Because we've got a good team. We've got a good team. We've beaten Spain. We beat Norway.
Isn't it wonderful? The Scottish people in Germany embracing everything about football and having a good time. It's great atmosphere and just great to be here.
Scotland fans think they've already won the party, and they've been here for days building up to the big game in Munich. It will be a daunting proposition taking on Germany as host, but they just want to try for the first time to make it out of the group stage at a major tournament. But Germany have gone home after the group stage at 2 of the last 3 tournaments. Scotland will be hoping here there are no home comforts for the hosts as the Euros begin. Well, the Scotland fans are being allowed by the police to enjoy themselves late into the night. This really is a big moment more broadly for football. For years, we've had problematic hosts and pandemic restrictions, which means this is the first time since Euro 2016 we've got a major football tournament with thousands of European fans able to move around. And at a time with so much division, the hope is amongst tournament organisers that even just for a few weeks, that this tournament can unite Europe.
Thank you so much. Stay safe. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by the columnist and broadcaster Steve Richards and the Telegraph's deputy comment editor, Annabel Denham. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Mirror, looking at Labour's general election manifesto launch. The headline will give the nation hope. We'll be right back. Stay with us for more.